Okay, so today's going to be our follow-up day to yesterday when we talked about word art. We're going to go through a few things and then you'll have the rest of the hour today to actually start working on the preliminary steps, and then depending on how far you get with that, you might actually be able to start your actual drawing today, which would be awesome. So, parent expectations signature sheets, in case you need a reminder, are due Monday, okay? If you need to set a reminder for yourself, you can do that after I'm done going through this list of things to do. Several of you have handed them in already, but if you haven't, make sure that you make a point to get that signed this weekend, have that conversation with your parents, and then I need the sheet back on Monday. Also next week, please be prepared to pay your art fees. So when you signed up for class registration, in the course description, it talked about the art fee that you will owe, and then that covers your art materials like the paint and the markers and the paper and the stuff like that. It will also cover, assuming I have enough, it will cover one of these sketchbooks. However, I don't think these are, with the transition between Miss Bradshaw first semester and then me coming in, there's just a little bit of like overlap. So I believe there are enough of these for everyone for second semester that are left over from Miss Bradshaw from first semester. And these were purchased with art fee dollars, which then yours would reimburse. However, I don't think there's enough pages in them to do like the entire sketchbook assignment for what you guys are going to get for this semester. So if you want one of these, and if there are enough for everybody, then you can have one, but just be prepared that you'll have to add pages in, like printer paper or whatever, as we get to the end of the semester when you run out of pages. If that doesn't appeal to you, right, I know sometimes that is kind of just annoying and more hassle than it's worth. If you would rather just get a larger sketchbook with more pages, you are more than welcome to do that, but you don't have to. Okay, does that make sense? All right, I'm telling you that now in case you have one at home, or in case maybe you got a gift card over Christmas and you want to go spend it this weekend on a sketchbook. We will talk more specifically about the sketchbook project, like the actual details of the assignment for the semester, next week, Wednesday. Okay, so I don't need you to like worry about the details of it now, but I wanted to give you a heads up that that's kind of where my head is at with that, and that's what I'm trying to make work. Okay, question?
I'm broke, so I've got no money. How am I going to get a sketchbook?
Then you would use one of these and you would add printer paper into it.
Alright. What happens if I don't got no printer paper?
No, we have printer paper here.
Ow.
Okay?
Yeah.
Any other questions on that? Okay, so that's how I'm planning to do that. You do need to pay your art fee next week though, so please be prepared for that. I can't, I'm waiting for confirmation on whether that fee is $30 or $35, so I'm not going to take any money until I've received confirmation on how much I should be, or how much you should be owing, because I don't want to overcharge you. So I will post that in Google Classroom as soon as that confirmation comes in, but please be prepared to pay that next week. And then I will put it'll look like an assignment in Google Classroom, and it'll just have a check whether you have paid your fee, whether you're accounted for or not. Question?
Do we give it to you?
I believe so. Yes, I will put that in the Google Classroom post when I confirm that.
Do you take check, cash, or like debit and credit, or like PayPal?
I believe you can have a check made out to the school or cash, because I have like receipts and stuff that I can give you. Not cards though. I don't have that set up here. That would be cool if I did. That would be really easy. Okay, any other questions on art fees or anything I just talked about? All right, look at the little half sheet that I gave you. At the beginning of every project, the major stuff, right? I will always give you a project rubric. And this one is like a little teeny tiny because this is kind of a little bit more minor project as we kind of ease our way into the semester here. But the idea is that this is going to lay out for you exactly what criteria and what goals you're going to be graded on at the end of the project. So you get this at the beginning so that you can kind of keep track of it and keep referring back to it and make sure that you're working towards those goals and those criteria. So the first one is that your drawing needs to have a balance of unity and variety to create visual interest. Okay, that should make tons of sense to you now. We talked about that a lot yesterday. The idea is that you need to choose how much unity and how much variety you're going to have, where you're going to switch things up and make them different, where you're going to repeat things to make them feel cohesive. And then by that balance, you're going to then create visual interest. You're going to make sure that, remember, the ultimate goal was to display your 100 words in an interesting and creative way, right? So by balancing those two things, you're going to create that balance that is going to be impactful and interesting and engaging for your viewer, rather than just, your list of words straight across in rows that would be very boring. Okay, so that's your first 10 points. Your second 10 points is, does your project meet the minimum size requirements? Okay, remember we talked about that. Your length times the width of your drawing paper should equal at least 200. Okay, can you hand me those, see the stacks of the drawing paper pads behind you, please? Thank you. We figured this out last hour. Thank you. And then can I have the smaller ones too, please? Connor, can you help? Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so you need to be familiar with two different sizes of art paper. This size, and it helps that they're in pads because it kind of cheats and it gives you the dimensions right on it. So these smaller ones are 12 by 18. If you do not want to think at all about your dimensions and you just want to like grab a piece of paper and draw when it comes to like using this for your actual project, 12 by 18 will get you above 200. So this will meet the minimum size requirement. However, 12 by 18 is this kind of longish rectangle. So if that works for your composition, I would recommend using this size and this dimension. And you'll just, when the time comes and after I've approved your preliminary plans, then you'll just grab a sheet out of this pad, put your name on it, and then that'll be yours for the project. If you want a square, remember the minimum required size is 200 square inches. So the square root of 200 is like 14 point something something. So if you did a 15 by 15 inch square, that would be the smallest easily measurable size that you could do if you want a square dimension. But that's only 12 by 18, so you can't get a 15 by 15 inch square out of that. So only if you need both dimensions to be bigger than 12 by 18 would you use then an 18 by 24 inch piece. Okay, and those will be in these pads. Again, it says 18 by 24 right on it. And I'm going to leave these on the counter over there, but you're only grabbing those after you've talked to me and gotten your idea approved. Does that make sense? Okay. If you need something that is longer than 18, okay, say you want like, I don't know what the math is, but say you want something, you know, like really teeny tiny but really long, you can do that too. We have white roll paper right behind Sarah back there under that stack of books. So that's a possibility. It's a little harder to work with, right? It gets a little cumbersome. But if you want your creativity to go in that direction, that is available to you as well. Okay? Does that make sense? Question?
Is there a maximum?
Like how big the paper can be total?
Yes.
I'm sure there would be with the limits on that paper. But I guess it depends on how long of a piece you're willing to work with. It needs to be something that you could photograph all in one picture and then display on the board. So if I were you, I wouldn't make it longer than like the screen in real life, because that's going to get harder to see when it comes to like us looking at your project and grading it and stuff like that. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So that's what you're going to use for drawing paper. And like I said, you'll get that after I look at your 100 word list and your 5 thumbnail sketches, okay? And so the word list It doesn't matter to me if you want to write it out like word by word by word, or if you're using like lyrics or a poem, or if you're basically borrowing words from some other source. If you just want to copy and paste that, that's fine too. You'll need your list though when it comes time to actually create your drawing, because you have to put the words in the drawing. Okay, so however you want to show me your word list is fine. And then your 5 thumbnail sketches, here's an example of like the level of detail that I'm expecting on that. So they don't have to be very detailed at all. There don't have to be actual words in your thumbnail sketch. I just want to see, like, in general, what's the general gist of what your project is planning to look like, or what you're planning for your project to look like. Okay, and then I'm going to show you some examples of that as well. And before I move over to the computer, I just want to give you a heads up. These are, right, I showed you the paper sizes. These are the sizes that you're going to be working with. When you are working on them, we have 2 options for where we can kind of store your projects when you're not in class working on it. The safest option of those is going to be in your locker. So if you have a locker that is conveniently located somewhere where you can get to your locker on your way here, and then get to your locker again on your way to your next class, if you could store your project in your locker, then you know it's there, you know it's not going to get, spilled on, or it's not going to fall and get stepped on or something like that. That's going to be the safest option. If you can't make that work, then the next option is going to be to store your project on one of these drying racks. Okay? But the problem with the drying racks is that all of the classes share the drying racks, and it's just in here, kind of all day. So if somebody has like paint or clay or something that sprays or spills or spatters or whatever, there's only so much protection that those can provide. So if that risk does not bother you, feel free to put it on the drying rack. Make sure your name is on it once we get to that point. But like I said, your better option, the safest option really is in your locker, so that way you have control over where that is and what is around it. Question?
I haven't been to my locker in 10 months because I can't open it.
That would be a really good question for the office, and they can probably get someone to help you, like maintenance, or someone from the office can help you.
Alright.
Okay? Anybody else have a question that I can help with that way? Okay, so then I want to show you some student examples. You guys can put these back on that counter, please, and thank you. I'm going to show you some student examples from former students of mine who have done this project. You're going to see some that are stronger and some that are weaker. So if we start, and not all of these pictures are great, I apologize. So if we start with this, we see that the words are kind of altered in a way to fit within the shape of those circles. And then the circles themselves are overlapped so that it kind of looks like they're rounded, like more like bubbles instead of flat circles. You don't have to do something like that, but that is certainly an option that you can pursue. Oh, okay. This one also, if you zoom in, this person like really kind of overachieved with this, and they put like little textures within the letters as well to kind of make them seem lighter or darker. You do not have to do that, okay? But remember we talked about yesterday, one of the ways that you can differentiate your words is to make them appear to be different values. And since we're not actually like shading them because we're working with Sharpies, so it's either it's going to be black or it's going to be white, that would be one way to make like your middle grays if you needed multiple values. Okay? If that seems really, really scary to you right now, you don't have to do that. Okay, I'm just showing you some options. This one is kind of a cruddy picture, but you get the idea here. So using words to make lines, and then using different size words to make the different parts of the shape. We see some word hierarchy here, visual hierarchy, where some words are visually more important or more dominant than others. This one is it's sideways, I know. It's a music note, negative space shape, and then the words around the outside all have to do with music. So this one was kind of inspired by that piano example that we looked at yesterday. This one maybe is a little bit more time consuming because it's quite detailed with the size of the words. However, from a visual standpoint, it's probably a weaker example because there aren't as many different ways that the words are written, right? There's a lot more unity in this one and a lot less variety. So remember, that part is up to you. This one, however, is a pretty strong example. This is probably one of the stronger ones. This one has the words written in different ways. So the ones down here, words down here are outlined. Words up here are filled in. So that it looks more like a defined shape, okay? And then over here, we see that there's dark words in front of light words in the background. So it kind of creates that sense of like some things are closer up, some things are farther away, some things are even farther away yet. So it creates that sense of depth. Okay, this is just a random shape. Lots of variety in this one. This one, I think the picture is supposed to go the other way. I think this is supposed to be the Earth and then like asteroids. So like a space, excuse me.
Bless you.
Theme. This one is interesting. A quote is kind of an easy choice for this project because you're using words already. So this person just kind of leaned right into it. And actually the student that drew this just graduated college last year with a degree in graphic design. So she went on to do all sorts of arty things. But the little like lines that you see here, the little swirls and then the outline of the bird are actually individual little words. So you can give the effect of a line without actually drawing a line. And in this case, it kind of makes sense because the bird would have feathers, and so the words create texture on that line to kind of make the bird look a little bit feathery, which then is repeated over here. And when we repeat things, it feels cohesive, and that creates balance. So all sorts of good things happening in that one. This one's a little simpler. Okay, the symbol over here probably is a good addition because that way it's not just the letters. Okay, so it's a step above, kind of just plain Jane. This one is very strong in that we can see the shape of the guitar. It's not just a guitar kind of plunked in the middle of the page. It extends off the top and the bottom, so that's a little bit more creative and unusual choice. And then what also makes the background quite strong is that the background is filled with these words, and the direction of these words all points to a central point on the guitar. So that creates a little bit more visual movement. It gives your eye a little bit more to follow. It's certainly a little bit less straightforward and common and a little bit more creative, but it's not something that would take like 17 class periods, right? It's still very manageable in the time allotted. Okay, so you can see some different examples. This one took a long time, lots of unity in that one. Lots of variety in this one. This one is particularly strong, also because of the different ways that they created the words. So these words look very liney, right? They're very much taking on the effect of lines because the tops and the bottoms of the words, of the letters, were connected. So they drew their letters kind of chunky and very close together so that they have the appearance of lines. And then they filled in the negative spaces of those letters, which technically is still the lettering, right? And then the little lines up here are individual strings of words, and then these ones, to make them look like whatever the mohawk is called on the top of a zebra, they just used a really fine Sharpie and then stretched out those letters really, really kind of, distorted, so that they look like the direction that the hair would go. So I think the way that this student used their words in so many different ways was very, very strong and very effective in this example. Okay? Do you guys need to see more, or do you feel like you got it? You feel like you got it? Okay. So based on what you see, based on what your ideas are, just excuse myself to the table. Your next step then is going to be your 100-word list and then your 5 thumbnails. If you want to do more than 5, go for it. That would be great. But the point of 5 thumbnails is that your first idea is not always your strongest. So start with your first idea and then either come up with 4 other different ideas, or if you're really, really set on that one idea, then come up with 5 different versions of that idea where you're experimenting, changing out different things to see if you can come up with an even stronger version of it. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, once you have those 2 things, you're gonna come check them in with me at the computer. I will enter your grades for those right as you check them in with me. And then once I approve them, then you're good to go with a piece of drawing paper and get started. All right?
Do we use our computer to look up words?
Yes, you can use your computer to look up words. Oh, one more thing. Hang on, I'm not ignoring you. I told you the wrong deadline yesterday for your project. I know. Jesus, trouble. Get your back together.
Mine's a little school.
So, your last day for word art is gonna be Friday the 13th. Sorry about that. And then it's due before class on Tuesday the 17th. Okay? And you will have class time between now and then. Not every hour will be the whole hour of work time, but you will have portions of work time. And you can also take it home if you need to at any point in there if you want to work on it at home. Okay? So you have lots of time, but not lots of time, if that makes sense. Okay. Excuse me. What was your question over here? Who was that? Yes.
Is it okay if I just show you my